The adoption of skyscrapers. Introduction. What were the needs, resources, and values for the adoption of skyscrapers to have had developed? The Flatiron Building is the first skyscraper in the world. Built in 1902, 87 meters. Architect was Daniel Burham and has 22 floors. In Manhattan, New York, they were facing overgrowth and had limited land left. John Jacob Branscombe was the first man who had the idea of the Empire State Building. He wanted to make a building that nobody would ever imagine. The idea came to Branscombe when his friend Al Smith, governor of New York, lost the elections for president to a man called Herbert Hoover. In that time, the real estate was a huge thing in America, so Branscombe decided he wanted to put all of his money into a commercial building in New York City. Some of the obstacles for this building to have been built was that the workers were working from a very high altitude and 14 men died from falling off. Also, a lot of trade had to happen to get the right material for this building. As soon as a piece came, it had to be put straight away onto the building because in the city they had no place to store this. The prerequisites for the adoption of the skyscrapers in the modern city can be broken down into three categories: needs, resources, and values. Needs. City dwellers who began constructing skyscrapers and incorporating them into modern cities had to fulfill a fundamental need in order to adopt this innovation. Skyscrapers had become part of modern cities in order to satisfy mainly the need to optimize land use in a rapidly overcrowding urban area. According to the professor Edward Glacier, professor of economics at Harvard University, states that, for centuries, ever-tall buildings have made it possible to cram more and more people onto an acre of land. Also, according to Tom Harris, holder of B.A. bachelor's degree in English for the University of North Carolina, states that people in skyscrapers primarily because they are convenient, you can create a lot of real estate out of a relatively small ground. The author is saying that if you want to populate a limited area in the most efficient way, you have to build upwards, and this corresponds to the paragraph thesis very well. Tom Harris is using the word primarily when he says why people build skyscrapers, and this indicates that it is the most important reason, so that is providing the word mainly in the paragraph thesis. Skyscrapers have become part of modern cities in order to satisfy mainly the need to optimize land use in rapid overcrowding urban area. Resources. The city dwellers of the modern world could not have adopted skyscrapers if a certain key resource had not been available. The most important resource that led to the adopting of skyscrapers in the modern cities had been elevators. According to Klaus Rosmanit's master's degree in English and Geography at the University of Graz, states that elevators are the most important system of skyscrapers. They carry people up and down at speeds of 500 meters per minute. Also, the authors of the newspaper The Economists, a newspaper that offers authoritative insight and opinion on the international news, politics, business, finance, science, and technology, claims that when Alicia Otis stood on a platform at the 1854 World Fair in New York and ordered an examiner to cut the rope used to hoist him aloft, he changed cityscapes forever. To the amazement of the crowd, his new safety lift dropped only a few inches before being held by an automatic braking system. This gave people the confidence to use what Americans insist on calling elevators. That confidence allows buildings to rise higher and higher. The elevators are a critical resource to the adoption of skyscrapers. This is because there is no way skyscrapers would be able to function without elevators. People wouldn't want to walk up hundreds of stairs to get to their offices. With the invention of elevators, there was no worries for having to walk up hundreds of stairs because elevators would be able to take people up stories in seconds. Values. Finally, these modern city dwellers believe on a set of values that allowed them to continue to enjoy the urban lifestyle. The most important value that led to the adoption of skyscrapers was national pride. Jennifer Rosenberg, who has received a bachelor's degree in history from the University of California, claims that when the Eiffel Tower, 984 feet, was built in 1889 in Paris, it, in a way, taunted American architects to build something taller. By the early 20th century, a skyscraper race was on. By 1909, a Metropolitan Life Tower rose 700 feet, 50 stories, quickly followed by the Woolworth Building in 1913 at 792 feet, 57 stories, and soon surpassed by the Bank of Manhattan Building in 1929 at 927 feet, 71 stories. Also, according to Blair Kamin, architect critic of the Chicago Tribune, states that this high-rise Burj Khalifa isn't simply meant to shatter height records. It is supposed to be the national icon, a symbol for a madly exuberant, now debate-ridden city-state. Both of the authors are saying that the buildings were built to show off their country and that they were better than the other countries at building skyscrapers. So the owners of the buildings don't just build skyscrapers because they are useful. They also want to show what their nation is capable of. Conclusion. In conclusion, there are many resources, values, and needs for the adoption of skyscrapers to have happened, but the most important ones are the need to optimize land use in rapid overcrowding urban area, elevators, and national pride. Skyscrapers by Kate Fowler and William Gustafson.